Project Sapient is a podcast meant to engage our brothers and sisters in the law enforcement and military communities in conversations that we all know we need to have. All opinions you hear are our own, and they are protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. They are in no way reflect or are meant to reflect the opinion of any specific agency, officer, or service member. Some opinions may be controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to Project Sapient. We are actually in a very special location up here in New Hampshire today to record our second in-person episode. So, this is our second one. But we are here at the SIG Sauer Academy at the SIG Experience Center, and man, it's awesome here.
Yeah, this place has been pretty phenomenal. It's about 2 years old now. And when I first came up here to get a look at this place, I'd always heard about the SIG Sauer Academy and all the amazing training and opportunities they have here. And then coming out here and being able to be part of it has been like quite an adventure.
Oh yeah,
see this place and where you hear stories about where it was.
Yeah,
20-something years ago, just a couple of card tables and a berm and a mom and pop gun shop, and then you see this. It's like 400 acres.
Yeah,
that they have of all ranges.
Oh, it's amazing. Amazing place. And for our listeners, definitely come up here, take their classes, even come through the Experience Center. Check out everything they got, man. I mean, it's I call it like Disneyland for adults, pretty much. You know, when you come up here because of all the different things you can do when you're up here. But without further ado, I'm sure everyone's wondering, who am I talking to right now? But first, quick shout out to our supporters out there, Havoc Journal, who you guys all know I write a shit ton for. Actually just had a few recent publications. If you go on havocjournal.com and check them out, type my name in the search and you'll see some of my latest that I've written. And also 22 Mohawks, preventing first responder and veteran suicide through empowering and helping them find that sense of purpose. And also our friends at the Second Mission Foundation, where they elevate and educate our veteran community for their second mission, what they find to do after service. So we are here again at SIG Academy with Gavin Wegman, right? Wageman, sorry.
Okay, man.
Gavin Wegman. Yeah, people butcher my name every day, so I'm so used to it. But yeah, Gavin Wegman. Quick little bio on him. Gavin is a former U.S. Marine artilleryman, a red leg right there. Yeah. 2 deployments. And also went to the, looks like Army National Guard in Vermont. And you did 2 deployments, one with the Marine, one with the Army? Or
both with Marines.
Both with Marines, okay. And then you were a police community service officer, a nightclub bartender and bouncer. You're a first degree BJJ black belt, and currently you're a range safety officer working at the SIG Experience Center up here in Epping, Hampshire. So, which I like your dedication in terms of, working alongside SIG Academy, leadership to help guide the Academy's growth, fight and combatives world. And I love the dedication that you have in shifting, the idea of firearm ownership from a luxury skill set to a necessary form of kind of like in the martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Where, me and you talk a lot about using Bushido and a lot of the more philosophical.
Yeah, I love talking philosophy.
Because if to me, if you are, I told you before, if your practice is a martial arts system practice and never really study it, you're not getting the full experience, right? If you're not reading, Miyamoto Musashi, some of the greatest samurais, or Sun Tzu, if you're not reading any of those to really understand, Marcus Aurelius, to really understand what it means to be modern day war, right? Where the stigma of your common public is all warriors kicking doors and all kinds of shit, like, this aggressive Viking looking type.
It's deeper.
Much
It's
deeper.
much deeper.
Exactly. And that's something that, the common individual, even those who aren't really tuned into it, just don't understand that part of the martial arts. So with you kind of viewing this idea through the lens of martial arts and physical fitness education, you kind of have, you believe that that's a way to move forward, kind of for the survival of the Second Amendment, literally, is, and to unite all these tenets that we've learned over the years and that we see in practice of the martial arts and bring it into this world, whether it's SIG Sauer Academy, and to really bring and hone in those skill sets for everybody, essentially not just law enforcement or military, but there's more for everybody to study what it means, kind of like this holistic type warrior where you study everything, kind of all around encompassing type guy.
Yeah, you have an answer for everything that comes, whether it's you're fighting for your life at a long distance, or you're having a conversation, you're literally having a debate with a friend. It's all conflict, and it's all at a different scale. But there's tenets that apply to all of them.
Exactly.
About respecting your opponent.
Yeah.
Making sure you respect the person that might be trying to defeat you, to work on yourself, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and learning how to control your impulses, learning how to understand your opponent's behavior by getting into their shoes and knowing where they might be coming from. You want a water, by the way? We have some water back here. Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
So there's so much more to being a warrior than just the physical fitness and knowing how to kick a door down and have I like to put it like you can have the heart and the instinct to know how to fight and kill. It doesn't mean you know how to do it. And that's in the journey and the saga of every person's journey, every person's adventure into learning how to defend themselves. There's that moment where they start to find this internal peace that gives them that level of confidence and control over their emotions and control over themselves on the worst days of their life. And I think that's something that we're getting further and further away from. And I want to do, this is me coming here to this academy is the beginning of me doing everything I can to try to shift that direction. And it's I believe a lot of people here at SIG also see the same idea. Like literally the whole reason I came out here in the first place was because a SIG Sauer 7-part video documentary called SIG Empower the People. I highly recommend you watch it. It came out September 20th, 2020. And it honestly felt like this SIG Academy I've always been very passionate about helping people be prepared for the worst days of their lives. Like whether that's, like I said, mental, physical, whatever. And I felt like SIG just took the ball out of my hands and just disappeared into the horizon with it. And I was like, I gotta catch up. I gotta catch up to you, man. How did you do that? Yeah. Just in a video, I felt like it was taken from me. And I was like, okay, that's the place to go. That's the place to go to continue this journey. At this point, I had been training in jiu-jitsu for, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, or 9 years, maybe. And then I saw SIG have this thing, and I started researching SIG. I started researching the academy. I was looking at all the instructors and who knew jiu-jitsu. If any of them had jiu-jitsu, would there be any sort of like landing strip for me to find as I traveled out here with my family? And that was another process, like convincing my family, like my wife and all the wonderful communities I have back home, that like I have to go this way. Like I'm called to be here for the next chapter of what my purpose is, and it's fully in here.
Yeah, that's the kind of the amazing part is that I find with a lot of us veterans is after we get out is kind of honing in that sense of purpose that we built, right? Because once we're done with war, and like I got medically discharged, so once we were all done with that, and you come back and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And all of us, I think, that have been there realized at some point when we actually looked internally it took a lot of others to tell me this, is the experiences we've experienced at war or whatever else throughout our lives can really turn into instruction for the next generation of warriors or whatever. because, yeah, 20 years of GWAT really, tested us. But at the same time, the lessons learned and the type of people that came out of it are truly incredible. And some of the people that you and I both know, some like, Kyle Lamb, or even Chuck Ritter, Command Sergeant Major Chuck Ritter, and Tim Kennedy, and all those guys that have really took that mantle and found their second purpose, right? And that's something I see that you did, is you found that passion and you ran with it, right? And SIG kind of pretty much welcomed you into this world because I'm sure they realize that you have that sense of purpose and that drive to make something happen here at SIG. Is that something that
100%? And I wasn't the only one. Insofar as the development of coming here for me, was the objective was, like I say in here, is to the end goal is to get Second Amendment enthusiasts and people that are on the fence about the Second Amendment, and even people that hate guns, to start shifting the mindset to, this is a martial art, and these people who carry these are martial artists, and therefore they are becoming peaceful people.
Yeah.
And so coming here and having that mission, and even though I didn't really express that to that level of degree, because I'm never sure if people are going to be able to meet me at that level. They're like, okay, you're getting a little out of, that's a little like big for what, you're just an RSO, dude, chill out. But I have been so lucky to run into people out here that have been sort of developing this program even before I came here to publicly pick up the flag and move forward. There are others that were here before me that have played their part. One guy, I'll refer to him as Stellan. Stellan.
Okay.
He likes his privacy, but he had this thing running before I ever showed up. He actually was running some jiu-jitsu stuff here for a couple of years, and it got really, really popular. He did a very good job developing the community and making sure people learned correctly. And then COVID hit, and they had to slow it down. There was another instructor here, Justin Christopher, 4th degree under Pedro Sauer, and I had every intention of being like, okay, there's the guy. I got to get to know this guy, because this is how we make this happen. And that's how. And then as soon as I get here, like, I saw the mats, that there were these nice rollout mats that were for a modern pugilist course that I believe he developed alongside another black belt instructor that worked for SIG. And then, like, as I'm still kind of feeling out my area here, they ended up moving further on in their careers, and I was just like, I sort of, as I was here, I started self-medicating myself with distractions and different hobbies, because I felt like I couldn't continue forward without them. But I ended up falling, like, kind of like dipping into a depression, because, like you said a moment ago, a lot of us veterans, like, we need purpose. We need to feel like there's something beyond us that we're fighting for. And I eventually was just like, okay, enough is enough. I'm just going to start going out I'm going to see if I can pick this flag up. I'll start emailing people, asking if people are interested. What resources do I have around me?
Yep.
And I slowly started to, I just didn't stop. Every day it was to add 1%, just reach for the ball 1% more than I did yesterday. And sometimes it would be 5%. Sometimes it'd be more than that. But if I could just put 1% out, I was allowed to put my head down and sleep. And that just continued to snowball. And those moments looked like things like, it might be the middle of winter and we're out here in Epping, New Hampshire, and driving out here was maybe it may have seemed a little dangerous, and I would still, like, we might even be like, a lot of people went home early, like, the storm's coming in.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I got to set up for jiu-jitsu because I have one person that said they were going to make it.
Yeah.
So I will be here for that. I will be consistent. I will not let this, I will not let this slip. And there was actually kind of a point of pride of pushing past that temptation to just give into what everyone else is doing. Like, I'm just going to go home. Like, I'm tired. I'll just, I'll log out early, but, just continuing to push and push and push.
But that's what's great is, like you said, actually, I like that, is that 1% more. So it's kind of like, when you see people, some of these fitness guys or whatever, just get up, going to the gym, you're halfway there already, whether you don't feel it or you're, whatever, but as soon as you walk through those doors, you're like in in that zone,
Yep.
right? It gets you in that zone. So
Yep.
that's a good way of looking at it. Is even when I talk to other even within the law enforcement profession, talking to other cops and whatever, and I tell them, like, in terms of training, like, you become 1% better because you decided to dry fire for 20 minutes every night. And I said that's all it takes. It doesn't take much, but it's adding that skill. I mean, you and I both know in the martial arts. I mean, I started when I was in 5th grade, and in the martial arts, it's like you repeatedly do punch field as a kid over and over and over and you're like, yeah, how many punches am I getting?
Yeah.
But
What am I good at a punch?
exactly, and that's the thing. It's I think Bruce Lee was the one who said that he's not afraid of the person who is able to hit you once. He's afraid of the one that has practiced thousands of reps and able to connect with you, because that is like, that guy has been practicing for a long time with that one single moment, that one single shot that he was able to get you. And that's the scary one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that will get you. So it's kind of, I take that back, like, into the law enforcement profession, where training is so important, even though you and I both don't get as much training as you think, as people think. But through those repetition of training, you're able to be better, that much better, that 1% better, whether you're reading law or even philosophy or whatever. It makes you that much better in your response to the world that's around you, because people never call us on their best day, right?
No.
It's always on the worst day.
Yep.
So if your mindset's already elevated, right? If you're already like 100 miles an hour and don't realize it, and you get to the scene and all of a sudden it turns to shit, well, you might be the problem.
You're overloaded.
Exactly.
Your amygdala is already taken over.
Exactly. And that's where you don't think clearly. So what I like is with the concept of bringing BJJ into this world, right? When you first, I mean, we'll kind of take it back to when you first started the program here. I remember when I came out here to run training for the guys over at BJJ Cops, you were just starting off at that trailer, right? And
we didn't even have the trailer. We had essentially what we used was a conference room.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's right next door here.
Yeah.
We had this really big conference room and tons of tables, tons of chairs. And what I would do for setting up for jiu-jitsu is I would move all 40, 50 of these tables and 60 something chairs. I would push them all to the back of the room. I would roll out every single rollout mat. I would measure and make sure they're all lined, covered and aligned evenly as nicely as possible. Then I would tape them all down, and then I would clean them. And I would do that. We would do class for an hour, and then I was lucky afterwards. As time went on and people started to hang out afterwards, they would help me put the room back together.
Yeah.
But it would be a good 4 hours of time of just being like, okay, from the moment I pushed the first chair back to the moment I put that chair, I returned the chair to where it started, putting the room completely back together. It'd be like a good 4 or 5 hours of just having to reassemble a conference room because we have some really high-end client coming through the next day.
Yeah.
So it started there. It started with that.
So after you started there, were you able to gauge kind of like people are really digging this, kind of, bringing this side or that side of the world to SIG, and were people starting to pick up on I could see how this is also with my skill set in firearms and stuff.
It's very easy to sell that, and I personally have been able to. I can make very strong arguments as to why you should be training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I'd love to go into as we're here. But I was very lucky to run into one of the former director was very supportive of the academy. He was very supportive of letting me do my thing and bring in employees, and they would bring a friend here and there. And then he later moved on in his career, and he was his replacement, Phil Strader, who's in charge of the academy now. And he's got some connections out into the fight world. Some actually very respectable connections. He knows John Jones. He knows Hoist Gracie personally. He's got some connections out there, and I know he's the only person I've ran into that doesn't train jiu-jitsu, and he sees 99% of what I see. And he's he's helped feed this thing and helped energize it, and he has even actively been on the mats covered in sweat rolling with other people. Like I've seen it firsthand. It was when Hoist Gracie visited. That's seeing him train with Hoist in school. So I've been, like I said earlier, I've been very lucky to run into people. So that's how it really started to expand. Was it had that energy behind it, and I'm doing everything I can to show that I am consistent, and I do take this very seriously, and I'm going to be trying to guide this ship as far as it possibly can go, whether taking it through all the storms it inevitably will go through, and making sure any sunny days that come, that anyone who's on the ship is the first to enjoy them. And so there's more to come. As of now, where we are presently now, we now have our own little building. It was formerly the instructors' trailer. It's where they kept all their equipment, and they would have lunch in there. And I was very lucky to be able to be given that, to be gifted this, and to be they went forth and they spent a substantial amount of money on the best mats that money can buy. Because I was like, we're gonna do a SIG thing like this, how it has to be nice. Like SIG does. There's a saying around here, buy once, cry once, and it's sort of
I like that motto.
Buy once, cry once, man. It's a lot of money, but it's gonna be worth it. And so they put forth the money for the best mats I've ever seen in my whole fighting career. I loved it. And so that's set up right now, and we're still just kind of getting it. We're still just sort of priming everything for public release. So
so the launch is not yet. You're still kind of building it.
We still have class in there. We still have class in there right now. No charge. Come on through, have a good time. But that is going to change at some point down the road.
So let's talk about why you should train in BJJ. And my thing is, not only with BJJ, but like I tell all the guys during roll call, all the guys and gals, like, listen, train in something. Like, get good at something, whether it be judo, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, Kempo, correct? Whatever it might be, because those skills that you learn are skills that take you throughout your entire life, pretty much, right? Yeah. I mean, at some point, we're going to get older. At some point, we're not going to be able to shoot as well as we used to, because that just happens. But a skill that will always is constant, martial arts. It's your own body that you're using. And you can see, some of the older guys in the profession still have it, right? Who could still kick ass and do all that. But the reason why, and I laugh because I back up kind of when I first became a cop, and I was in the doing my martial arts all the time, like 3 times a week, all that stuff. And I remember I was having a discussion with my lieutenant at the time when I worked in Boston, and I was told that at the time, since the moves or the skills that I have are not sanctioned by the training council, liability will fall on me if I was to hurt somebody by an unapproved move. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, the bullshit I learned at the academy, the DT, defensive tactics, which as well as I do, none of it really works. It is, and I find it that I always laugh. I'm like, the guy who probably created that combatives, it probably never been in a fight in their entire lives, and at the time I ended up having to leave because I'm like, well, I don't want a job, but I laugh because several years later, all of a sudden you got this influx. It's like, oh, go out there, do BJJ, do this. I'm like, no shit. Like this should have been a no-brainer. So in your way, like why should someone? It doesn't have to be law enforcement or military, whatever. But why does someone should train BJJ?
I like to start when I try to sell people on this on the easiest thing. I start with the mental aspects of it. Just like you said, it carries on much further in life than just whatever short amount of time you might be physically able to fight.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to control that amygdala hijack moment.
Yeah.
Because when you're microdosing adversity, like you will every single jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, judo, any of those MMA, any of those top tier fighting arts, you do one class of those, you will be microdosing adversity in a way that will get you very, very close. You will get as close safely to touching your own death and be able to withdraw every single time you go to class, especially in jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu in particular forces its students to consciously make a choice that they have reached the point of death, which is submission, which is tapping out.
Yeah.
And that's the whole game, is you kill me and I kill you. Whereas in striking matches, like, I'm going off on a tangent. Real quick.
No, go ahead.
Striking matches, it's kind of like I throw a punch at 100% and you get knocked out. You didn't really have a choice. You just went to sleep. Whereas jiu-jitsu, it's like, my arm's going to break. This is going to break. I'm falling. I'm getting choked out. The world's going. I'm looking through a tunnel. All right, I'm done. And you get used to that feeling. And so you gain this ability over time doing this, where you're okay facing that feeling, and your amygdala starts to calm down because it's been here so many times that when the time comes and you back someone into a corner, maybe they have a knife, maybe they're holding someone hostage, you're thinking clearly right now because earlier that morning or the day before, you just had a 280-pound first-degree black belt smashing the dog shit out of you, and your brain was trying to panic, but you were you're getting more and more comfortable developing the ability to push back against that adversity, and that, like I say, that amygdala hijack moment. You calm yourself down, and you get your heart rate up. You're learning how to control your heart rate in that level of pressure. Yeah. Which is one of the things I really enjoyed when you guys came through. That changed so much in thinking about how I can continue to get this martial art further into the world. It was fascinating to me to watch your program. Everyone was kitted up with their heart monitors, and before, like, we were out at the range and people were just loading magazines. Yeah. And as their magazines slowly started to get more and more full, and they knew the moment of physical exertion and the moment of shooting and potential danger, and things could go wrong, feeling that fight or flight moment was coming. Yeah. You called me over. I never forgot this. You're like, Gav, come here. Show me. And you show me that little panel, and you're like, look at these numbers. Like, these are people who likely maybe they're not accustomed to this just yet. Like, they're getting nervous. I was watching, like, some of their heart rates were slowly going up, and some of them were calm, completely cool and calm. And it's such a fascinating thing. But that was so I think that's the greatest thing you're going to get to go back to what you said, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And why people should learn is that ability to control yourself in those moments where your life is on the line. Yeah. Because jiu-jitsu forces you to consciously touch that moment, and you can explore it as much as you want. You can stay there and not tap out and let your arm break.
I know plenty of.
I'm not going to tap out.
We know plenty. Exactly. We know plenty of tough guys, stubborn. That just like nope. Crack.
I do not tap ever. Yeah, all right, exactly. Well, you're going to go to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Have fun for the next 6 months in a wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly.
But so there's that. And then there is the physical aspect. And I do consider that to be, now that I've been doing this for so long, that is not, I know eventually our bodies will break down and we won't be able to carry that with us anymore. The ability to overwhelm and submit somebody. It's just, aging bodies is what happens. But it's still, you see police officers, and I was so lucky to be able to help teach the police officers of the Burlington Police Department jiu-jitsu, because every once in a while I would get to see, I saw the shift in their confidence. Occasionally I would get to see the footage, the Axon footage, or I'd see the CCTV footage, and I'd watch these officers not just be able to complete and safely take detainees to the ground and control them or bring them to the point of negotiation, but also be able to in that moment, because they could think clearly. Like, I remember one officer in particular, I don't know if I'll leave his name out for now, but if he watches this, he'll know who he is. But he was responding to a DV outside of it was like the middle of the night, outside of a little breakfast sandwich place. And he was holding one of these gentlemen, he was holding up against a wall, and he starts to fight back. He hits the takedown that he drilled 1,000,000 times. He hit it perfectly. He moved to a position of advantage, which was he moved to a strong mount position. And then usually he gassed the guy out, and the other person was lining up to try to kick him in the face. And he immediately, while controlling him, just takes a taser out and was like, nope, and just back off. And I was like, that's like, dude, look at that. That was so cool to see that. So you still have these skills that you still get that matter for that job. Yeah. For police officers. Yeah. So those are the two biggest things that I think are what jiu-jitsu in particular brings to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I always think back on my training with one of the original UFC fighters, Jason DeLucia. He was like, when they were still bare knuckle fighting UFC, and I remember I was training with him, and we used to train, and every time I'd come in an hour early before class, because with him, especially when he's there, you go right in the mat with him, and you want to talk about being humbled in a microsecond with him. We were doing a simple judo exercise where you just kind of wrap up and you're feeling your way around, to be able to do the throw. You're kind of shifting weight. You're kind of going through this process, which I loved, because to me, it's like, all right, I can even do this with my eyes closed. Depending on how the body moves, I can counter it and do the throw. And of course, he kicked my ass every time, because it's like
it's his job.
Jason,
he's a professional.
He's a professional. But I learned so much. Again, that's what people don't realize that is really humbling, and you learn a lot. It's from the mistakes you made during practice, right? During your training, you're going to make mistakes, right? And it's something, don't be afraid, right? Just because you're brand new to the combatives world, BJJ or judo or whatever it might be, you're going to get your ass handed to you, right? If you walk in with a certain ego, your ego, just see you later, and that's one thing I love about the martial arts world, is that ego-driven type individual doesn't last, because they get humbled right away.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was a brown belt, and I would get partnered with a brand new guy, because again, the more advanced guys, we tend to be able to not put as much power or set up the new guy so he can do a throw.
You're controlling yourself,
we
control, you know how to.
Exactly. But then you get these egomaniac white belts who will walk in and just go 100%, and you're like,
they think that's how every night is. They think that's how it all is.
And I'm like, okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm pissed or whatever, but it was to teach a lesson in humility.
Yeah.
And it was a hard lesson for people to learn like that. But those who stick with it learn it quick and realize that it's not about your ego. It's not about, being better than another fighter or anything like that. It's about yourself.
I'm just about to say, it's completely about yourself.
Yeah.
It's about being better, that 1% better than you were yesterday, like we were just talking about.
Exactly.
And it's tough for people to have that emotional IQ to really understand that it might be their ego holding them back from getting them onto the mats, and microdosing that adversity and feeling that discomfort of, I'm going to fail I'm going to lose a fight. And that, especially for guys who are in jobs that might require some degree of narcissism, that's a very difficult pill to swallow. Like, I think about, military, police officer, when you got to go into a room and you got to go and you have to do your job, it is you. You are the guy. Yeah. No one else in the fucking universe can do this but you. And that's necessary for you to do that job and survive and go home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But when you want to go work on yourself and get better at doing that, you're going to have to realize that narcissism or that degree of ego is going to get in your way, because you're going to go up against professionals, and they're going to be better than you, and they are going to bring you to that point. You're going to end that primal mode of, I'm fighting now. Just like you said, you're new and you go 100%, and you're going to lose. You're going to fail, and you're going to ask yourself why. And your ego will be like, you can just say, you got something else going on. Yeah. Next time there's a class, just say there's something else going on. You got to go to this, you got to go to that. You don't need to make time for that. Look at how big and strong you are. All you need is strength. And you start giving yourself these excuses. And one of the things I always think about is if your test, and I always, like I said, I always warn this, especially with officers, is that if your test as to whether or not you're good at a fight is simply that you haven't been beaten to death yet or killed, then technically you're undefeated. You're undefeated until the day that you're not, and at that point you're dead. So what does it matter? So I mean, it was always kind of heartbreaking for me. For example, like I'd see or I'd hear about officers that would be on the department or on other departments out in the world, and I'll see them on like Gracie breakdowns and stuff where the officer is getting they're in great physical shape, and they're getting handled. They're getting smeared across the ground like jelly across toast, and, and then they still don't do anything about it. They don't continue to try to improve themselves. They go back to the weight room, they lift more weights, but I mean, it's tough. It's tough when you have people come in, and you have to help be a good ambassador to make sure they understand that this is part of the program. This failure and pain is part of the program, and you need to learn how to welcome that with open arms, because you will someday face some person who is going to be, they might know everything you know right now, but they're going to be 5% stronger.
Yep.
And then it's done. Then they got you. Yep. And so if you're not working on yourself, especially if you're like a police officer, where most of the times you're going to be putting your hands on someone, most of the time they're not going to be swinging for the fences to take your block off. They're going to be like, oh, all right, fine. Right, yeah. Okay, fine. But the second you do that's a grappling match. The scale of intensity just isn't at the point where you're overwhelmed and you consider it assault yet, or they're resisting arrest. It's just, hey, we're grappling. I'm grabbing you. This is technically grappling. Yep. And that can change in an instant. Like I'm sure you've had as an officer many times, you grab that and you feel that tension, and you're like, and I'm like, here we go. Exactly. That's my first thought. Relax. Yeah, exactly. You say that, relax.
And what's interesting is, again, we're so automatic in what we do. Is the minute I put my hand on, and they're already tensed up, and I'm already doing my move that I want to do, just to prepare, just to get ahead of it. Because, again, just like we feel amygdala hijack, that guy feels amygdala hijack too. Like, that's a human response. Now you're both in that fight or flight mode, but who's going to get the best of you, right? Are you going to allow him to get the best of you, or are you going to allow yourself to bring yourself back down? Again, I think I shared with you one of Massage's quote is, if you wish to control others, control yourself.
So, I wrote that down.
Yeah,
I was actually bringing that up. I was going through a lot of your stuff, and I was finding all these quotes of my Massage, and I was like, I'm going to add some of these to my.
Well, that's the thing. Like I because it makes so much sense to me. Is you see, and I'm sure you've seen it. You take two cops, go into a situation. One cop is not technically really in control of themselves, versus the other cop who is in control of themselves, has that confidence. And you could literally, the room picks up on it right away. I mean, I've again, not to like pat myself, but I've gone into situations where complete pandemonium, chaos, right? Whether it's a large fight, whatever it might be. And the minute I show up and I step out of the cruiser, you could see everyone else like, oh, shit.
He's in charge.
Yeah, he's in charge. Like, that command presence that we call. And I find that, a lot of officers that I know at my PD who train in jiu-jitsu, martial arts, walking, whatever it might be, they have a different level of confidence when they go to a call. They have a different level of cognitive abilities to be able to pick things up and process in an instant, because that's the thing with...
Correctly, too.
Exactly. And that's the thing with putting yourself in that. Again, I always say get comfortable. I think I said that actually when we were training here, when I was training those cops here, where I said, listen, get comfortable being uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable. And one of the things I love doing is when I train is I force cops to be put in uncomfortable positions purposely. So whether we're about to go on the ground, I will basically set them up like as if they were just about to get choked out. I'm like, figure it out. How are you going to get out of this? And it's amazing to see those who don't train where one, you got to have really good role players, right? Those who can really control the match, if you want to call it. And those role players understand their mission. I was like, listen, just give them a hard time. Don't choke them out. Don't do anything like that. Just
make him work.
Make him work.
He has to work.
Yeah, he has to work to get.
If it's lazy, then you get into a good position and just make it worse. Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed is those who don't train revert to deadly force like that.
It's if every problem looks like a nail, you're always going to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is, though, what we've learned in in martial arts, where not everything is a deadly situation, right? I mean, I could be getting choked out, whatever, but guess what? I'm able to get out of it and move around. Now I'm no longer in that deadly situation. That's what I love about, training with somebody else. Me personally, I've always loved training with somebody bigger than me. I fucking love it. You have to.
You absolutely have to.
Exactly.
If it doesn't work on the big, strong guy, it doesn't work.
This guy I used to train with all the time, Chris, he was a monster. Big fucking dude. And man, he would make me work and his punches would hurt. my God. One time he clocked me so good in the face, and I'm like, oh, you got me,
Yeah.
But there's a reason behind it. It's because I want to train on a guy like that. Because one day, which most times I do, I face people like that, right? Especially whether they're going through like a mental health crisis, whatever it might be. They're big. Their parasympathetic is fucking going through the roof.
There's real adrenaline.
And there's
fighting.
Exactly. And we all know body mechanics. Well, arm's going to move no matter how big you are a certain way, right? And if you're panicked and never trained certain skills, you're not going to be able to overpower a guy who's going through some sort of crisis safely, right? You're going to be in that panic mode, get your baton out, and you start striking, and all of a sudden he's getting more and more, versus, where I've done it before, where I take someone to the ground and I just hold them, and I'm like, calm, breathe, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, we're not fighting.
Yeah, it can get worse for you.
Yep.
But right now, I'm in control, and I'm not going to let that happen unless you force it to happen.
Yep.
One of the first things I go over with when teaching police officers, or even teaching self-defense, especially women's self-defense, is the positions where you find where you want to start striking and what that tells your opponent when you do.
Yep.
I like that when we were teaching police officers stuff, we would like to forecast the answers. So we know what they're most common people that you like, maybe I'm in a bad position. And it's like, okay, what would I do here? Like, maybe go for my gun. Oh, go for the gun. I shoot him and he's dead. And and now I'm, kind of fucked up, but hey, I'm alive.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, well, here's why you wouldn't want to do that. Or striking, for example. It's like, maybe I go strike him. But the problem is, like, what did I just tell this guy? If we weren't striking yet and I swing and I miss, what did I just tell this guy? It's okay to strike. It's okay. We're striking's now on the table. We can start punching each other now. And now I just escalated things. I didn't have the position to do that. There's such a fascinating science to understanding there's like a intelligence in fighting that exists, a fight IQ, and a lot of people don't have that. They don't possess that. And to know when is the right time to pull my pistol, when is the right time to get to decide I'm going to fight. And I really like that about having been able, as I've built this here, I've been able to very closely observe how the firearms instructors here work. And it's there's so many similarities to training in a martial art that and I brought this up with them before. I was like, you guys know you're martial artists. You guys are teaching a martial art, and I see some of them. I can see like there's a shift, being like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Yes, technically I guess it's a martial art. I guess, and they see it, and I'm like, yes, I know you see it. I have this very, very firm vision that there's, I believe, what's the number, like 42% of adults. 42% of adults in the United States, approximately 88 million people, own a gun. 2.95 million people in the United States train Jiu-Jitsu, I believe is the number. And there's more across all martial arts. But I'm willing to bet that if I asked both of those groups the question, who is responsible for your safety if someone preys upon you, I'm willing to bet they would both say, I am. I'm responsible for that. I trained to prepare for this. This is something I have an answer for that problem. And so I think there's a huge crossover that can happen here, where we can start taking a massive martial art with the 88 million plus people that have a culture war being waged against it. And we can take the concept of martial arts, which there is no culture war against martial arts. It's growing, if anything. You see UFC's growing, and Bellator, and One Championship, and self-defense, physical self-defense is showing up. I think there's this huge opportunity for us to start getting the nation, if not the whole world, to start looking at firearm ownership as a martial art, and begin to start to shift the way people that might not understand to look at it as such. And we can do that. And I think this place is going to be ground zero for that.
Well, that's what I see. I mean, just talking to some of your instructors, even when I was out here training, and the way they present themselves and the way they talk about weapon manipulation and the motor skills and all that stuff, which I could see how you see it is, that's identical to the martial arts, like when we talk about grapples, when we talk about, shifting your weight a certain way in order to affect a hip throw, or even how you land, right? When we're training, we practice break fall. All right, how you break your fall? Yeah, you got to put your hand, slam on the mat, just to ease that throw. But that's what I found. So I see what you're saying about how with even firearm ownership, having that as a martial art, because it gives it a deeper meaning, right? To be a firearms owner, and I do like that a lot, because it's true, because you could tell the individuals who are dedicated to that art, i.e. the gun, how well they are versed in that firearm, or how they even carry themselves throughout life. It's because they know and understand the power that they possess. And that's something we learned in the military early on. I mean, especially once you go to war, you're like, God damn, you got pretty much the power of God in your hands.
Yeah.
Right? Whether the might of the U.S. military down to the M4.
Yeah. It's the pinnacle of individual violent technology.
Yeah.
Is a firearm. It's precision. It's a precision-made instrument that is designed for death. And we, if we're applying a martial arts attitude, and I love the way they describe this here. It's in our classes in this place, everyone's always like, when is the right time to use a gun? And the general answer, and I love this, is that when it can be used to save a life. And I think about the martial arts aspect. These are precision-made instruments, pinnacle of individual violent technology, and they should only be used. They're used to kill in the purpose of saving a life. And I really, really, really like that approach. And that's something that I think we can start to shift people's idea that this is not just owning a gun is not just some luxury thing for people. It's something you should be trained in, and you should understand, and you should 100% be practicing and forever pushing yourself towards growing in.
Yeah.
And understanding what that means for you as a person to have that remarkable power. Yeah. To be able to be responsible with that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those places where I think they take that very seriously. They teach you even whether you're a grandma that's never shot before in her life, or you're some 20-year SF vet. Like these guys here, these aren't just black belts. The guys that teach here, they're like red belts in this stuff.
That's what I always say.
To watch them teach.
Yeah, that's what I always say. I mean, that's one thing I picked up on, is they're so good at just even the little things, placement of the trigger finger, like, stuff like that. Just the very, very small, minuscule stuff that could make a difference in how you shoot. Same thing with the martial arts. Very minuscule pinky or, ring finger, whatever placement you put your hand to get ready for that grapple is very, very important. And just like the firearm, where we battle drill, practice, changing the mag, or even transition drills with a rifle. Well, you're doing the same thing in the martial arts, where you transition from the throw to now you're on the ground. Now you got to transition to something else.
Yeah, it's like even martial arts has its own style of equipment. Like we work in gis. You want to have a good gi to grab onto and move around. You want to make sure you have like good equipment. You have to understand your equipment and how it works and how can you improve. I just got this. I was telling you about this earlier. There's a guy that works here, and he started this company called Carbided Grips. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of this guy, and since he took off with this thing, it's been like I haven't been able to find the opportunity to get my gun in, but I finally did, and I just got the awesome grips to be able to train with. As I'm starting to train out on the ranges, I'm breaking a sweat. Yeah, hands are getting dirty. This guy has this remarkable recipe for the firearms he works on.
Awesome.
I actually.
Do you have one to show? Or
I was shooting this morning. I was hoping you'd ask.
Bring it over. Bring it over. I'd love to see it.
It is phenomenal, man. It just seals right to you.
Wow,
it's phenomenal, dude. I actually, a little fun hobby for myself. I like to paint model. I like to, if they want to see it, yeah. Carbided Grips. That guy kills it, man. I have a hobby on the side. I like to paint models. I like to build and paint models. Yeah. One of the things I'll always do looking at other people's work is I like to look at line work, because I like to see, it's not just like, okay, it's sandy and it feels good. I look deep into the grooves. I look into the recesses, the textures, and I try to find okay, did he go over the line? Did he get, This guy, and he puts out videos of his stuff like every other week. He's doing some of their build, and I'll sit there and I'll watch that video multiple times, and I'll look for wherever he may have made a mistake. I don't find one, man. This guy takes so much time.
Well, again, you perfect the skill set, right? So yeah, what I'll do is after done the show notes, I'll add his website and stuff like that if people want to order. Does he have that? Yeah. Does he have a website and all that?
Yeah. I think he has an Instagram. Yeah, I'm certain he has it.
Yeah. We'll add that to the show notes. That way.
It's all this equipment that, like, as I've been here and you get to see the experts who take their job seriously, and it's just like a martial artist. Like, I need to understand, like, my equipment is my hands, my mind, my body. I have to train in it. I have to understand it, and I have to help it grow in the same way that I have to, like, the G10 grips that 320AXG Legion came with, fantastic. But I can do more. Yeah. I can do more. I can make it better, and it's my responsibility. It's my primal responsibility to secure my own survival in this world. I should continue to work on myself, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think people don't understand with that type of mindset is it is about that. It's more working internal. That way, the external doesn't bother you as much. We'll call it. We'll tell you. We'll put it that way. Or if you're able, as a cop, you go into a situation, and I mean, I don't know, there was a good video of a couple cops. I think it was at some parade or something. A fight broke out, and man, they were able to handle themselves. Where one cop was about to get tackled, he sprawled, took the guy down. Took the guy down to the ground. And you look at it though, not once did the cop throw a punch or anything like that. He just took him down, and the kid knew fight's over.
I'm over. I'm outmatched.
Yeah, I'm done.
There's a whole, like, being in a gunfight, you get that fire superiority. Same thing exists in physical altercation.
Yep.
Like, if you are clearly outmatched, you're going to be overwhelmed. Your OODA loop is going to be fucked up, and you're going to be running and on the defense. Even if you're on the ground, if you're in a striking match, being pushed into a corner, same rules apply.
Yeah.
And that guy sounds like he got that fire superiority.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was, and his partner jumped in too to help him because somebody came from behind the cop, and I loved it. His partner just literally did like a head sweep type thing and just threw him to the ground. And
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you got? I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you. It was an amazing. Like, I'm like, these guys owned like a crowd of 15, 20 people. Just.
That's it, man.
All done.
It's like they're working together and they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
This is an opponent that is clearly prepared. They came here, they're a hard target, and I might be an easy one.
Exactly.
So maybe I just won't fight. Maybe I just won't get involved. When I was working as a bouncer, there'd be moments like that too, where it'd be like me and another guy, and the place is packed with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and a big fight breaks out, but you go in there and you establish that fire superiority, and like there's space, and you're able to do a little jiu-jitsu, and it clearly looks like you know what you're doing because you move and then stop in an instant because you know what positions to get to and where you need to stop, and that person is on the ground looking like they're completely being hit by a tidal wave of physical momentum. Yeah, that sends messages out.
So to me, it's funny. So there's this thing that I wrote about it on Havoc Journal. Right, call it psychological. Right, where you fuck up the other guy's purposely, because it makes me think of, so this one quick story I had, this mechanic shop, this is several years ago when I was still on patrol. This mechanic shop, the owner was calling the report, credit card was used by one of his employees. Now this employee is a big dude, right, rugged, big guy, has quite the history in terms of like very violent criminal history, and you're like, all right. Is a good one. So did the legwork, was able to catch camera footage of him going into different stores and stuff like that, buying gas, whatever. So yeah, got the probable cause, got the arrest warrant, all that stuff. Now comes obviously a moment of truth. And he had no idea this was going on in the background because it was an investigation, stuff like that. And I've been in contact with the owner. So I asked the owner, hey, when is he working? He'll be working. Okay, I'm going to head down Monday and take him into custody. So owner already knew this was happening. The mechanic had no idea. I mean, I spoke to the mechanic a handful of times, but nothing really that would say, yeah, you're in trouble. So I go down there, and this guy, again, big dude. And one, I put myself in a bad position, I knew right away. Because the owner of the store was like, "Oh yeah, you can use my office." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Wasn't really thinking much of it. One, I was thinking, all right, let's get him out of the mechanic shop because there's plenty of tools, plenty of weapons. So I was going to just have him come outside to talk to me and then take him into custody. And at the time, my partner was on his way, so I had some time to kind of kill. So I go into this office. I'm like, shit,
Trapped.
Yeah.
Trapped, small area, only one door in and out.
Exactly. And I'm like, damn it. So, and he was at the end because he walks in, he's at the door. I'm like, God damn it. All right. I don't like where I'm at. So I start talking to the guy, and what I start doing is kind of moving around the desk, and he's moving the other direction. I'm like, oh, well, we're going to keep doing this.
Myself to that door.
Yeah, get myself to that door. So I get myself to that door, and he realized he's at a disadvantage now. He's like,
He's trapped now.
He's trapped. And I took him into custody. After that, no problem, because that, to me, with him, I mean, I spoke to some Green Berets about it just to kind of get there, like, what the hell was that? And what he did was like predator and prey circling each other, or predator and predator circling each other, and the other guy realized that you just beat him psychologically because you put him in a position he didn't want to be in, versus you staying in that position.
Dude, the mind is so fascinating like that.
Yeah.
I've paid more and more attention to this. I've been reading a lot about like the psychology that goes not just like combative scenarios, but how our brain it's this thing that's designed to keep us alive, and it's always that amygdala is always scanning for threats.
Always.
And it's also this thing that's like, it steers us away from pain and suffering, which is how our OODA loop gets fucked with, which is why you microdose it, you start getting comfortable with it, and it's not as scary to be in that unpleasant scenario.
No.
Like, I'm sure he had no idea you were freaking out a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm sure
exactly.
he didn't see that. I'm sure
he didn't see that.
Just walking around, just looking at him. I'm sure it was tripping.
Dude, my heart rate was up, because
you trained, so you knew that feeling, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, and you probably saw it, like he's shifting position, and then he folded because he doesn't microdose adversity. He doesn't push himself. He's used to being big, and that scares people, and he's crazy. He gets what he wants, and those are his thing. Not as big as he was, but you train for it, comfortable with pain, and even you know when you touch it, it's going to be okay. Like in your gut, you knew it was going to be okay. Like, I can touch this fear, and I can still do my job, and I can still make decisions. I love that shit, man. It's such a fascinating thing.
Well, that's what it is. It's because I myself am always fascinated with how someone perceives the world, even perception. And for this guy, his perception was, shit, I just lost. Right? And you could tell even with him, when I was taking him into custody, I mean, he was still tense.
He may have been feeling out his, like, what can I get away with? What can I get away with?
Exactly.
And you had the advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
You had fire superiority.
Exactly. And then that's the thing, like to have, but again, though, that comes with training and skills, right? To have that confidence and that superior, you're like superior to this individual, because you're right. This individual, he got around the world by violence and, being arrested a bunch of, all kinds of shit. So to him, he's not as he has that adversity to withstand pain, but he was always the guy, like you said, wins every fight. Never really fought somebody probably who's skilled, versus now, oh shit.
There's that read.
Yeah.
That read when you look at someone and you're like, this guy's confident. He's not scared of me.
Yeah.
It's very fucking simple and very, very real. I had a situation when I was working at a bar in downtown Burlington, and it was just me and another guy on. And we had this dude who, he was such a pain in the fucking ass, but he had calmed down. We had like banished him from coming to the club for like 6 months. And then he came back. He's like, look, I'm sorry. Everything's cool. Okay, cool. He comes in, everything's going fine. And of all the times for something to happen, a whole bunch of, and this rarely happened at this bar, but it was a bunch of 81s that showed up. So there was a bunch of Hells Angels show up.
Okay.
And the thing with these Hells Angels, they were working with alongside another motorcycle club that I think was looking to patch over. And I think there was a bunch of dudes in there that were wearing Prospect clothes. prospect stuff, but they looked fucking weathered.
Yeah.
Of like Hell's Angel prospect. And I was told on the side, like, yeah, those guys are actually the top dogs. They're just trying to get attention off of them out in public. And I think they're here to observe the new recruits that might be patching over. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And so I've got this one dude who is like, he thinks he's this gangbanger. Yeah. And then there was like 9 or 10 HA and this other club patching over. And I was like, Jesus fuck, it's me and this other guy. And we end up they end up getting into it. And me and this other guy, we were both heavily training in Jiu-Jitsu. I've got this one dude who is like, he thinks he's this gangbanger. Yeah. And then there was like 9 or 10 HA and this other club patching over. And I was like, Jesus fuck, it's me and this other guy. And we end up they end up getting into it. And me and this other guy, we were both heavily training in Jiu-Jitsu. So it was these two guys that were tripping with this gangbanger, and they wave over the other, like the new joins or the prospects of HA, not the actual, but like not the fake prospects that we think were the top dogs, but the actual ones come over. So they start moving over, and then as soon as they see the HA start coming over, they start fighting this guy 2-on-1. And me and this other guy jump in, and we just pounce on all three of them, and like we hem them all up. Yeah, we get them all controlled. They're all wearing big, thick leather coats, so we were able to control them. And by the time they get there, like the bartenders have started to clear, they're moving through the crowd, people are getting the hell out of the way. But we're so in control of the situation, we took the top position right away. Yeah. We weren't fucking hurting anyone. Yeah. And like they all start moving up on us, but they kind of kept their distance. I think they weren't ready for the level of intensity we brought it to that quickly. Yeah. And how quickly we got the situation under control physically. Yeah. And that little bit of time of hesitation where they showed up to the scene, these guys were not HA, and I feel like we just by the skin of our teeth made it in, but because we could get control of that situation, everything started to calm back down. The HA guys were like, all right, these guys fucked up, and then we were able to talk things back down because nobody was hurt. Everyone just had a little bit of hurt pride. They were on the ground. They couldn't, like, both on knee on belly. One dude was literally just like backed away. The gangbanger was like vanishing into the crowd by this point. And so we were like, hey, this is what went down. Your buddy is here. Like, they had a little bit too much to drink. Hey, man, we're just trying to make money. We're trying to feed our family. And then we were able to like talk to them because they didn't come over and see punches flying and blood spraying all over the place, which would have sent them through the roof. Yeah. It was that jiu-jitsu, that control over our mind, that control over the situation, and everything started to just the sizzle, it slowly turned down to a simmer, and then it finally calmed down. So when you were talking about this, I was like, oh shit, I remember this one moment. Yeah, when you were talking about that one huge guy that boxed you in, and you were like, actually, I'm in charge, even though you could very easily be in charge. You clearly think I'm in charge because I know how to feel this feeling, and you're not as comfortable with it. Yeah, and that came to my mind. I was like, this one time. Yeah. I mean, that could have been really bad. Well, that's the thing. I trained for this. Well, that's the thing, because eventually I got the edge. Exactly. I mean, you take for granted when you train a lot and get yourself skillful, and you're learning every day, and every day you're bettering yourself. Because, so we have a couple cops at my job where they took 1 8-hour BJJ type class. And I remember next to that roll call, like, you're going to keep going or what? And, they were like, no, I don't need that. I mean, 8 hours is enough. I'm like, no, it's not. And my thought is, this officer, he's very ego-driven type guy. I'm like, his ego got bruised. Yep. I bet you that he got fucking plastered, which is, to me, I love, like, fucking put me to work, and you'll be my friend. You know what I mean? Like, because I get it. Actually, am. Exactly, and that's what I like. I like a challenge like that. And with him, he did not like it, obviously. And I'm like, but you're missing out on what you're actually doing. I said, you're getting yourself there. I was like, an 8-hour introductory class is nothing. I mean, I shouldn't say 8 hour. It was probably like a 4 hour. It's not going to fully. It's just like a 4 hour use of force class for police departments. It's not going to be enough You have to keep doing it. It's just like you can't go to the range once and like you can't go to the range at the academy and being like, I now know how to shoot. I'm good until I got a qual in a year, and then I freak out for a little while. No, you got to keep on it.
Exactly.
It's your job.
Exactly. So I mean, it's fascinating that you're bringing basically everything we've talked about, kind of bringing that mentality into the combative side over at SIG, and really hone in on people's abilities to persevere. We have an amazing resilience system in us as humans. You know, we've been through a lot of shit, and to me, combatives really hone in that primal instinct, because it's so different than punching a punching bag. It's so different than, I could throw weights around, strength training, all that shit. But until you step into the ring with someone, it's a whole different.
And you know they're coming.
And you know they're coming. Exactly.
Yeah, competitive. That's why I like to compete as well. And because that's where you're allowed to touch, that's where you're allowed to play at that level. Yeah. And it's okay. If you get hurt, that's part of the program.
Yeah.
If you're in training and you're getting fucking hurt, that's too far.
Exactly.
Training, you should be. No one's trying to win training. No. You win competitions. You don't win training. You go to training to suck.
Yeah.
And then get better from that.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a very different. People don't like touching that. I mean, and it's not totally. It's literally just how we're designed. Our brains are designed to steer away from hardship, when really it's the hardship. It's the hard road.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's the hard road. You have to, if you want to be better at fighting, if you want to be better at lifting weights, what do? You go lift weights. Yeah. You don't say, I'm just gonna, I'll get better at lifting weights by, I'll lift this 5-pound weight a bunch of times, like 50 times, and then I'm done. No, you go and you push yourself. You create hypertrophy, and you create pain, and then you get stronger from that pain. Some of the best things that come in life come through pain, and it's that pain that, like, referring to that gentleman you previously worked with who avoided that because he got hurt, and his brain says, I got hurt. We don't want this again. Yeah. I don't want that. Fuck that. I'm not coming back. And I've seen that too. I've seen it in jiu-jitsu. You see that too all the time, because it's so much more that primal loss. Yeah. That primal sense of failure is so much more intimate when you have to look someone else in the face and say, I submit myself to you. Please have mercy. And if all you do is work out in the gym all the time, you're stacked full of muscle, you're fucking shredded. If you look like that and you put in all that work and you're able to push through that style of perseverance, and then some 110-pound sorority girl chokes you out, like, you're not gonna. It's gonna be tough to come back.
Yeah. I mean, so I went to Bakersfield with my training program and trained 10 other officers, and we had this one officer, bodybuilder, like, again, ripped. All 9 yards, everything, even had the perfect hair. I think I called him like Tom Cruise or something, like, perfect hair and all that shit. But the minute we put him into scenarios where he had to go hands-on, he got humbled quick, because he didn't have enough gas in the tank to handle that. So, and that's what I always say with training. Training comes, you could train to be a long-distance runner. You can train, win sprints, all that good shit. But you have enough after that foot chase to finish it. Yeah. Right.
I love that about the program that you did with EJ Cops, when everyone was hooked up and they were just, I remember, like, we had to hold that just had to hold one over your head, and the other dude had to hit 20 calories, and you just had to sit there, and you pointed out, you're like, the other guy is in a fight, and he's going to keep fighting, and in the simulation it's fighting until you get to your 20 calories. That's you showing up on scene, and then you're going to fight too. So it's like, that's real. Yeah. You guys were very, very skilled with that. I'm really excited to have you guys back.
Yeah. Again, us coming back, I mean, that's a later conversation, but in order to, again, like, putting all that together to me is a holistic approach to training versus just the one skill set, right? I mean, it's great to have the skill set in firearms. It's great to have that skill set and that mindset when you take on this piece of metal that literally life and death is right there, and you're able to dedicate your time to it. But there's other aspects to not just the firearm, to being human. being able to be skillful at combatives or any sort of skill, you need to develop it over time, right? And in order, again, to me, I train the way I explain it. I train for that final fight. Like, it may come one day, or it may not. I don't know. But guess what? I'm training for it.
Yeah.
Because one day, who I'm facing is me, right?
I'm here with you, man.
You know,
We're on the same wavelength.
that fear, if you want to call it, is linking up with someone, a bad version of
He knows
me.
everything you know.
Yep, everything I know.
5% better.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's the guy I'm fighting. So when I have I have a mirror in my gym, and when I'm really fucking working, and I say to myself, I'm like, fuck you, dude, let's go. Like, I need to be that much better. And those are the ones, unfortunately, you find with a lot of law enforcement officers, they don't have that sort of mindset where one day I'm going to face myself, and that, like you said, twin, doppelganger, whatever you want to call him, is that 5% better.
Just enough.
Just
enough to kill you.
Exactly.
And he's coming. That moment is screaming through the universe right now.
Exactly.
Coming to you. It doesn't. Every single human being has the worst day of their life, screaming through the universe, headed their way. And what are they doing to just be prepared for that? What are they doing physically to get ready for that? What are they doing mentally to prepare themselves for that?
Yep.
For that collapse. Are you going to be able to stand back up afterwards? Are you going to be able to fight? Like every day you put in the gym, every day you train, every day you go on the range, every day you educate yourself in how the mind works or in how the world works. That one person that you were going to meet up that would kill you, he only hurts you. And that one person who was going to hurt you, well, he only hurts you a little bit. That person who was going to hurt you a little bit doesn't hurt you at all. And that person who didn't hurt you at all, he completely cooperated. And it's like every day you're moving, you're climbing up that rung, and you're putting people that might wish you that might be the harbinger of that terrible day.
Yeah.
They're moving down the ladder. And you're moving past them, and you're developing this warrior, mindset, this warrior philosophy that, I'm not going to be that harbinger for someone else unless they come to do it for me.
Exactly.
I'm going to spread this kindness throughout the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to help enrich others that come near me. I'm going to be that warrior in a garden.
Yeah.
And that's why I love your project. I love the podcast. I love everything. I'm really happy to be here today.
It's great to be here ourselves. And I always like, we're getting close to that time where I like to finish off the show with, usually our guests would give like a one piece of advice out to the military, civilian world. Like, what advice or what's something somebody can take with them that, if they're working a shift tonight, that for them to really think about in terms of EJJ or anything that you can think of that they'd want to take tonight just to think about.
Oh, man, there's so much pressure. Is a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to be placed under some kind of pressure. That means something's expected of you, and you should honor those moments that are going to be difficult, because that's it's going to give you that story to tell, to share with others, to inspire other people. Yeah, it's the whole pain through perseverance.
Yeah, no, I like that.
It's our perseverance through pain. That's what it was.
Perseverance through pain.
Through pain. Yeah. And it's you have to. That what's on the other side is so wonderful. It really is wonderful. Like, even for myself, like my story right now, when I'm trying to build here, like I am tired all the time, physically, mentally, but it's not just because my flesh is weak doesn't mean the deeds that I'm doing won't endure and won't be something someone else will be proud to inherit. Just like what you're doing. It's on police officers that stand up and help others, want to be there for people on the worst day of their life. Firefighters, EMTs, you're tired, but the deeds will endure. The deeds will endure.
There's over at 22 Mohawks, the owner, the founder, Dave Campesano, he always says, deeds, not words.
Yeah.
So that's
nice.
Like a thing that, his motto at the bottom of his emails, deeds,
it's not talk.
Words. No, it's not talk.
It's not about talk. Don't talk about yourself. Exactly. Just do it. People will see it, and that'll speak so much more.
Exactly. And that's what I always tell advisors. Well, what do you want to do? I want to do that. Do it.
Yeah.
What's stopping
Execute.
you? Yeah.
Go.
Execute.
Go.
That's why like my battalion commander over in Iraq, he always used to say, it's like always on the attack. Even to this day, he texts me, after we go back and forth. And he's like, remember, Sarge, always on the attack.
First Sergeant's the same way from the Marines.
Always on the attack. Just execute. Do what you got to do, So
that's great.
But Gavin, thank you so
Thanks
much.
Me,
this was awesome.
Really wonderful. It was a great conversation, man.
Absolutely, man. So everyone, hope you got something out of this. Check out SIG Academy on their website for the announcement when the BJJ combative side full launch. And feel free to email us for any comments or suggestions, or even if you have questions for Gavin, forward them off to him. And actually, we could put your email address probably in the show notes. We'll add all that later on. Yeah. All right, man. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us, and stay safe. Stay safe.